Ship's log, celestial date 218.254.20. After Dagger and I managed to escape the Shattered Federation's corvette a couple of anchorages ago, we've jumped twice here in the Bloodied Breach sector, and we found an ocean world that the star charts call Proteus. And on it, I have found an old vault in a strange mechanical geometric formation. It looks mostly damaged and ruined, but there may be some interesting artifacts inside, and we're going down to look. Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is Starforged Alpha Cluster. We are again with Krista Sutton, our main character, alias Jackpot, also known as Quick Draw among the one faction that she sort of finagled information out of. But we're out in the Bloodied Breach, which is two sectors away from where we started in Cronus Tide, looking for the world of Orcus here. Right there. But we're at Proteus. It's an anchorage. And in the last episode, we fought the Shattered Federation. They had a corvette. They attacked us. They took down our shields, but they didn't do any damage to the ship. And we managed to escape. We found some mineral asteroids, and then we came to the world of Proteus and found this vault. And I stopped the session a little early because I knew we were going to be going through a vault delve, and so we need to I need to set that up. So now we're ready to go, and we're going to head down to the surface and try to land on this platform in the ocean that's mostly wrecked and ruined and falling apart. And so I've set up an oracle array, which is a ruined vault, same we've used in the past. I randomly rolled that it was ruined in between sessions, and that's what we came up with. And so now Chris is going to head down into the atmosphere, which is breathable, of Proteus. And we know that they have this precursor vault and the luminescent seas with bountiful life. And Proteus vault is pitted and scarred. It is ruined, right? So I'm going to put here, it is a ruined vault. And so it was some sort of a machine, but it is completely non-functional now. And unlike the last couple of machine vaults we've encountered, which seems to be the pattern in this part of space, in this case, it's not functioning at all. Remember, a couple of them were like walking and moving around. Well, this one is just dead. There are no lights. There's no energy coming out of it. It's just a hulk. And it's this weird, complex geometric shape. So what I'm imagining is it's made out of all of these different interlinking hexagons with like pentagons in between them and stuff. And so it's this weird multi simple shapes put together into a complex shape. And so we're going to head down and we're going to delve that vault. Now I do want to point out that it is a typical site of limited in scope, and we have, by default we make those dangerous delves just because longer than that gets really involved. And again, that's not the point of this trip. Our point is to try to someday get to Orcus. But in the meantime, Krista wants to examine this vault. And so the first thing she has to do is fly down through the atmosphere. Now, it's a breathable atmosphere. There don't seem to be any storms or anything, so I'm actually not going to make a move here. She's just going to fly down and land on the vault. Now, I guess one thing we could ask is whether or not, and you can see here I came up with the ruined vault, whether or not there is a viable place to land at all, or whether she's going to have to like float the storm swept in the water and they're going to have to maybe swim across or something. So I think she's going to fly around, she's going to buzz it, right? She's going to circle around it and she's going to scan it and she's going to look and see if she can find a reasonable place to land. And this is securing an advantage, right? She's assessing the situation. And I don't really think that Dagger can help her here. Dagger's an explorer, but this isn't really exploring the vault, right? This is just examining it. So she's doing it with expertise and focus. So rolling wits, we don't have any extra bonuses. First move of the session, and we get a weak hit. So we choose, we're definitely going momentum. So she sees, we succeed, so she sees a stable spot where she can land. And then there are these geometric shapes going up and down above the platform. So it's a hexagonal platform, and that hexagonal platform connects to some sort of a like a geodesic dome, and there's a hole in that dome that she can get into, and then that dome is going to lead to some other, like a pentagonal shape, and then other shapes and so on as we go through the delve. So she sees a good spot and she's going to land the ship. And I don't think we need to face danger or anything here. I think it's reasonable. She sees a spot and they land. So now Krista and Dagger and her droid, Iris, are going to get out. And Krista, is she going to take her exosuit? I think at this point, no. I don't know that we need the exosuit. So Chris is just going to get out with Iris and Dagger, and they're going to go to the Proteus vault here. So we will get our counters, and we'll put Iris on the map, and we'll put Krista on the map. I'm not going to put Dagger on the map. We'll just assume that Dagger and Krista are together at this point. And the ship is landed here, and they're on the platform, and they walk up to this wall of the geodesic dome, and they look inside, and what do they see? So the first thing we have to do is ask, what do we see first look inside the vault? So our inner first look, where is it? We see biological infestation and damage and debris. Okay, so I think we have a ruined entrance here. And it is a biological infestation. And let me change this to Modesto. And I think it should be smaller. Let's make it 28. There we go. So it's a ruined entrance, and it's a biological infestation. So Krista takes out her scanners, and she starts scanning with her own personal scanner, and she sends Iris inside to scan the area, and they're going to do their first expedition. So together, Krista and Iris and Dagger move forward into this ruined area, and Krista starts scanning the biological infestation. Let's ask, what's the basic form of these guys? Okay, so there are a bunch of larvae kind of hanging down from the walls, and in these sort of like conical shapes that look like cocoons. And then there are larvae bursting out of these cocoons and sort of milling about along the ceiling and the floor. And Dagger says, "Ugh, these things are disgusting." And Krista starts scanning them to see what she can find out. And Iris moves forward. And so they're going to head through this section and see if they can get to the next section. And so let us undertake an expedition. And we are using wits, staying vigilant. And we get +1 from Iris. And the result is a weak hit. We reach a waypoint, but there's a peril. All right, that sounds fine to me. We'll accept the weak hit. So we move through this area. The larvae don't attack us because we get a weak hit. But there's going to be a peril at the destination, right? At the waypoint. So let's create a waypoint. And we're going to figure out what she sees when she passes through this sort of broken opening and goes into the next section. So in exploration, we're going to have a descriptor plus focus. I actually kind of hate when it does that because these then are very generic. And this early, I don't have any feel for what this delve is like. But it's grim industry, a grim industry. So I think this area is a dissection lab that you're sort of rotting their bones and old elements of corpses and dissection trays and stuff like pinned to the wall, and there are diagrams and that sort of thing that have been laid out of whatever was being dissected. There are old broken monitors where stuff might have been displayed, but everything is shut down because it's ruined. And so this is an area where they were dissecting the life from this planet. So this is a dissection lab. And we face a peril here. So what kind of a peril do we face? We get pay the price. So now we're going to actually roll it because I don't know what the price would be, right? So we're just going to roll on the pay the price table. And we get 59, your equipment or vehicle malfunctions. Okay, so I think it's very humid and wet in here. And so is this, so let's ask the Oracle. Is this Iris? I think it's likely. Come on. There we go. It is not. So it's some other piece of equipment. Well, I think the obvious other thing is the data pad. So Krista, so I think there are some cracks in the ceiling here, and there is water dripping down. And as Krista holds her data pad over the bones of one of these organisms, does she see? If we look here, some more of these bird-like fossils. I'm going to say unlikely, but let's see if she does. She does. So she sees more of these bird-like fossils, and she leans over to take a scan of it, and water drips down and like kind of splashes on her and splashes on her data pad and shorts it out. So she curses, and she's going to have to fix her data pad. So now in the notes, right, where it says that she has the multi-scanner, right, we're going to have to put on here, if I can get it, the multi-scanner is broken right now. So she's going to have to make a repair roll to fix it. So she curses, and she pockets her multi-scanner in her jacket, and she says, all right, Iris, you're going to have to be my multi-scanner. And Iris sort of beeps at her, and Dagger says, because Dagger has one, I believe, right? Doesn't Dagger have a scanner? She does. So Dagger has an older model of a multi-scanner, so Dagger pulls hers out. And she says, well, we can use mine. And she looks up and she just says, I'll just try to avoid the water. And Krista kind of wrings her hair out because she got hit with the water too. And she's, all right, come on, let's keep going. And privately, she's thinking, maybe I should have brought my exosuit. By the way, that last thing was progress, right? We got here, right? Because we marked progress, right? So Krista's multi-scanner isn't working, but Dagger's is, and Dagger's there to help her, and they're going to move into the next section, or attempt to. So Krista says Iris sends Iris ahead. I'm going to assume that there are several holes in the wall and exits and places where they can go. What they're going to do now is they're going to leave the geodesic dome and enter like the pentagonal area, and we'll see what that's going to be like. So let's draw the pentagon. It's going to be an ugly pentagon, I think. It's not much of a pentagon, but you get the idea. And then we will... let me get off of this. I really hate that every time you hit escape, even when you're not selecting characters, it still closes the character sheet. That's a Foundry thing. That's not a thing from the mod. All right, so she's going to try to continue on to the pentagonal area, and she's going to leave, let Iris lead. Then her, and then Dagger's behind her with the multi-scanner out like a tricorder, as it scans. And we're going to undertake an expedition, and we're going to continue. And again, we're rolling wits, and we got +1 from Iris because she didn't malfunction in the last one. And we get a strong hit. We reach a waypoint. We mark progress, and we envision what we get. So let's once again check the exploration oracle array, and we get a vault feature. So we're at the interior of the vault. We get an interior feature, and that feature is maze-like passages. So this pentagonal shape has a series of switchbacks and maze-like passages walking in and out. Who knows what the purpose of this area was? But right now it's just a series of maze-like passages. Um, and Krista's curious about what this represents. So let's label this maze-like passages. We can just write it that way to keep it short. And she says, let's examine this area. Like, check for secret doors or hidden openings. It seems strange that there would be this entire structure, and all it is a maze. And Dagger agrees, and so they start like using her multi-scanner and Iris's light beams and scanning equipment to scan the walls, and we're going to explore this waypoint. You're not supposed to do this all the time, but I think it's reasonable to do given that it's unclear what the purpose of this is. Let's remember that we can take +1 momentum on a hit when we explore this waypoint. Now, the survey bot doesn't help us. It's only when we undertake an expedition, but I think Dagger helps us because she is an explorer and she's got a multi-scanner. So let's go ahead and explore a waypoint with +1 from Dagger and see what we find. And we get a weak hit, or we can burn momentum for a strong hit. I want to save the momentum. Envision what we encounter, take +1 momentum. We actually get +2 momentum, so we go all the way up to 10. We get a weak hit, so we uncover something interesting, but it's bound up in a peril. So let's do a vault feature, right? And see what we see. A vertical shaft. So this maze-like opening has a vertical shaft leading upwards, right, into another level. And so they climb up into a level, and I think the level above it is essentially empty, like it's a whole floor that's the size of this pentagon. And in here there's going to be some sort of peril. And this will be a ruined peril. So now we're going to go to the location theme and ruined peril. Hazardous atmosphere or environment. So I think, so let me change that. Let me say the vertical shaft leads down and there's a ladder and they climb down and they're on an open platform area that's pentagonally shaped beneath the maze-like set of corridors. And the waves are washing over. So they get down there and all of a sudden these huge tidal waves kind of wash over them and they're going to have to... and so Iris just sort of floats back up into the shaft because Iris can fly, but Krista and Dagger are going to have to face danger in order not to get like swept out to sea. So let's face danger, and so Krista curses, and so she gets down there first. She jumps down, and all of a sudden she realizes how close she is, and the waves come washing up, and she's already wet. Now she's completely soaked in this violet water, and she reaches up to kind of try to grab onto Dagger and the ladder, and Dagger reaches down to get her, and they're going to face danger together. And she is, I believe, using mobility here. No extra bonuses, but we do have 10 momentum. And we roll edge. And we get a miss, but we can do a strong hit, and we will. So Krista, she reaches up, and just as she reaches up, a wave washes over her, and she doesn't grab Dagger's hand, but she grabs a hold at the last moment. She grabs a hold of the ladder and lets the wave wash over her, and she just strains and holds on, and the water passes, and then the wave subsides, and she reaches up with her other hand, and Dagger says reach, and clasps her wrist and pulls her up. So we're going to go ahead and burn the momentum, and we get 1 momentum back, so we're at 3, and she successfully climbs back up. So we have avoided the peril. And this makes sense, right? She basically did a fruitless exploration of an empty platform. Maybe there was stuff here before. Maybe this was how they brought the specimens up into the dissection lab. And maybe it's a maze of corridors because some of the specimens, like if they got out, wouldn't know how to get out of here and would be trapped. And I think that's what's going on. So, so that's kind of what we get for exploring this place. And it slowed her down, which it makes sense that we would lose momentum. So Krista says, all right, well, let's move into the next section. And let's say there are two exits, one here and one here. So, and it doesn't matter which one she takes, so she'll take one. And we're at 4 progress, so we've got to move a little further up here because at 6 progress we get to the inner part. So I'm going to imagine that there's sort of this ring of geometric shapes, and then inside there's another geometric shape in the middle, and that's where she's trying to get. So we're going to continue, and we'll say that the next shape is a cube or something. I don't know. Easy to draw. And we're going to undertake an expedition to try and get into the next section. And that is going to be +1 with Iris. So she says, all right, Iris, lead the way. Chris is dripping, soaking wet, spitting out the salt water taste or whatever it is. Maybe it's not salt water because it's purplish. Maybe it's some other kind of a chemical. Magnesium water, I don't know. And she sort of, ugh, God, that was awful. And now my data pad's really ruined. So we're going to have to fix that because it got soaked. So they're going to stay vigilant and continue into the next section. Rolling wits. Oh my gosh, not good. But, well, we rolled a 1, but we get a nice bonus, so that helped us get a strong hit. We reach a waypoint and mark progress. So that means they get into a square section, and Krista sees through holes in the wall a way to get into the, let's say, the icosahedral 20-sided die looking center. What do we see in this room? We use the descriptor and focus again. So we see foreboding data. Okay, so this is some sort of a control room. I don't know what's foreboding about it, but this is some sort of a control room. Okay, so we're in a control room with Dagger, and so it's obviously like a data center. And so the question is any of it potentially functional? Like, is there maybe one console that's working? Is there maybe one console that's working, something like that? Let's ask the Oracle. Is there anything functional in here? I think it's unlikely. Whoops, I know I rolled 50-50. That's a mistake, but it's a no either way. So there doesn't seem to be anything functional here. Foreboding data. So does this mean that it looks like somebody smashed this up rather than that it kind of just decayed naturally? I think that's likely. Yes. So there's damage in here. Blaster damage. Explosion damage. And Dagger looks around and says, wow, this didn't just fall to the ravages of time. Someone blew this place up. Someone attacked. These guys were violently attacked, and it looks like by some kind of technology. And Krista says, well, maybe something that lived on this planet attacked them. And Dagger says, well, we didn't see any signs of technology, so that's unlikely. And Krista says, well, let's continue on and see what we find. I think, she says, if you look in here, this leads to the center. So let's go to the interior and see what we find there. So now we're going to head into the sanctum. Right? And so now what we're going to do is I'm going to actually roll Vault Sanctum rather than the Oracle Array because that is different from the interior, and I think we should get at least some Sanctum stuff in here. I don't want to just keep doing Descriptor and Focus. But first we have to undertake an expedition and see if we can make it. So once again, she sends Iris ahead through the sort of like exterior, like a bridge into the icosahedral dome, or whatever you want to call it, icosahedral sphere. And we undertake an expedition with +1 from Iris. And we get a weak hit. So we can make 2 suffer moves. Let me just check something. I was just checking that I hadn't missed any momentum, but I don't believe I have. We get a weak hit. So we got to make suffer moves. So first let's mark progress. And let's figure out. Let's not make a suffer move. Let's face a peril. So first let's figure out in the sanctum, what do we see? Descriptor plus focus. I can't win. All right, what we see is chaotic illusion. All right. So I think this is going to be like the other vault. If you remember, the first vault we went into, we came to like a holodeck. And I think this is going to be the same thing. She's going to see holographic images, but because they're chaotic, it's not functioning properly. There's very little power, and there's some flickering of images. She can't even tell what it is that she's seeing, right? Like, it's not clear what type of organism or object it's trying to make. It's flickering in and out of focus, very weird shapes, maybe geometric shapes. So she's getting this sort of very chaotic view of these illusory images. And so we're at 8 progress, and Krista's still not sure what the purpose of this vault is. Is this all that's in this icosahedral sphere? I don't know. Maybe it is. So I think Krista's going to say, hey, let's use your multi-scanner. She goes over to the wall. There are some wires. And she wants to connect the multi-scanner to the wires and see if she can maybe provide a little bit of juice and a little bit of stability to kind of interpret what these holographic images are. And I think what we're going to do is, well, we have to face a peril first, right? So before she does that, what peril are we going to face? Let's do a sanctum peril, right? Confounding distortions of the time stream. Okay. So as soon as they come in here, they think it's a holodeck. But it actually, what they're seeing is that something about this room is actually some kind of a time manipulator, right? So I'm going to change this. This is a temporal manipulator. So what Krista says is, oh, this is another holodeck. And Dagger says, oh, that's what you meant. And Krista says, what? And Dagger says, what other holodeck? And they start answering each other's questions that they haven't asked, and they get all confused. And so the question is, do they still think it's a holodeck? And that what they're seeing are holographic images, instead of realizing, then they start fading to each other, and Iris starts fading. And are they going to realize that they're in a time manipulator and not just a holodeck? And that's facing danger. And this is facing danger with wits, I think, because she's trying to figure out what's going on. She doesn't get any extra bonuses for this, except maybe Lore Hunter, when I make a move. No, we're not doing research or study. So she's not studying this area. She's trying. So this is, can she figure out that she's in a time machine rather than a holodeck, and that they better get out of here, or they could all start experiencing time at different rates, and like she could be here for a year while Dagger's only here for a week, and they could have all kinds of issues. So let's face danger, and we don't have a lot of momentum, so we got to hope we get lucky. We're rolling wits, and oh boy, we get a weak hit. Okay, so I think this is going to cost momentum, and I think the obvious thing is, um, Krista realizes this is something's going on with time, and she orders Iris to to get out, and she tries to grab Dagger and pull her out as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to make our progress move. Um, and so if we get the progress move, then I think if we look at the purpose, right, I think there may be something time related. I'm going to have to look at it. But that may be the purpose of this vault. So she's going. So if my thinking is that this room is big enough to fill the entire sphere, and it is some kind of a time machine, and that's the purpose of this vault somehow. And if that's the case, and Krista succeeds, she gets them out of there. If she fails, then we'll see what happens. So let's roll her progress move. And we get a strong hit. So this is on our undertaking and exploration, right? Expedition. We're finishing the expedition on a strong hit. We reach our destination, complete our survey. We mark a reward. Dangerous is 2 ticks. But we also get an extra tick because we're an explorer. So we get 3 ticks. And we've got some XP, which means we can up an asset if we want. Krista pulls them out of there, and I think we learn the purpose. So let me pause this while I look through the purposes. Manipulation of space-time. So I think this is, Krista realizes that they get out of here, and this vault is a giant, massive time machine. And that that somehow they were capturing organisms, putting them into temporal manipulator, whatever, seeing what would happen to them, and so on. Somehow, the creators of this vault were using it to manipulate time and to study the effects of time manipulation on the organisms here. We don't know who the creators of the vault were. We don't know if they're the Forgotten Ones or somebody else, but this is some sort of a giant time machine. And so they're going to head back out. And I don't think it's necessary. I had a long conversation with folks about like leaving here and how, for instance, to me, just walking out through these things shouldn't really need to roll supply. And several of them said, well, why are you even rolling at that point? So I don't know that we're going to need to make a roll. There's nothing dangerous in here that we registered as we were going through. So we're just going to say that they leave. And they get back to their ship. And Krista launches them off into orbit, but she's going to stay in orbit for a little while. And she wants to take a shower, dry off, dry her clothes, and she can try to fix her multi-tool. So we're going to do a sojourn here in orbit. Where is that? Where is it? Hang on, let me try to find it. I can't figure out where they have it. It's under recover. Right? So we're spending time recovering, but we're not within a community, so we're not going to do that actually. So she's going to do a repair. Right? She's just going to try to repair her multi-tool. So let's go ahead and make our roll, and either one, they're both, so we're making our own repairs. Yeah, we're not obtaining from anybody, so rolling wits, she doesn't get any bonuses for that. Just roll repair. And we get a strong hit. So we're in the field, we get 3 points. So we can repair any other device, right? We don't have a broken module or taking integrity. We're just repairing any other device. That's all she can do. So we're going to go into the notes, and she manages over the time, takes a few hours to fix her multi-scanner. And so now we go back to the Bloody Breach. And in the meantime, I think along with that, let me look at what assets I would like to upgrade. All right, so I really like in the Explorer path, when you secure an advantage by studying a newfound place from a safe position, which she does quite a bit. Add +1, take +1 momentum and hit. If you get a strong hit with a match, get another +1 momentum and vision and usual aspect of the site. So I'm pretty happy with that. I like that. And that's going to cost her these 2 XP. So we're all set with that. And we've used up our XP. And we've got our new asset here. And looks good. I actually looked at adding stuff to Iris. And I do want to do that. But I like this one better. Because I feel like she has occasion to use this more. So now we're going to undertake an expedition, guys. Let's see if we can maybe, if we make this a little bit of a longer section, if we don't get too much bad luck, we might possibly get to Orcus. So we finished exploring the Proteus Vault. We marked that complete. And now we got to do another step of our journey to Orcus. And so they finished repairing, and Krista then pilots the ship back into the drift. And we're staying vigilant and rolling wits. And we get a complication. We get a miss with a complication. So we arrive at a waypoint or confront an immediate danger. So she doesn't even get into the drift, right? We're going to get an immediate complication. So we're in space. What's the peril? 80. Someone questions your presence here. And this is a complication, so I think, to me, it seems like the most obvious thing is the Federation has found them. This Corvette somehow tracked them through the drift or guessed where they were going to go. Maybe somehow monitored their transmissions. I don't know. But I think it's very, very likely. I think it's very, very likely that the Corvette of the Federation has found them. So let's see, is that true? Is it the Shattered Federation Corvette? Yes. So the Shattered Federation Corvette is now going to fight them. So now what I'm going to say about this is we're going to bring it back, right? Second battle versus Corvette. But this one is only going to be dangerous because they did a lot of damage to this Corvette in the previous fight. So it's only going to be dangerous. But I think Krista's not going to be able to just escape into the drift. So Krista's finishes fixing up her multi-tool, and all of a sudden she hears Dagger yelling, Krista, get up here right now into the bridge. And Krista's like, what the heck is wrong? And so she gets out of her lab and she goes climbing up the ladder and gets to the bridge. And she sees that the Shattered Federation Corvette is coming out of the drift and is coming at them. Weapons being armed, their blasters have been repaired, their missiles, but their engines aren't quite as good as they were. And Krista's like, we're going to just have to fight these guys. I tried to escape them, but obviously they're going to keep chasing us. Raise the shields and let's go at them. And she decides they're going to fight them. So we're going to raise shields, and to do that, we roll plus vehicle integrity. And we get a strong hit. So on a strong hit, we end up with 4 shields. So she raises her shields, and we're going to enter the fray. And so they're being kind of ambushed. So this is actually good for Krista when she gets caught in a trap, because she's rolling. Well, I don't think that's true. I think she's facing off against them now. She's decided, okay, we're going to just fight these guys. So we'll roll hard. And we get a weak hit. We get +2 momentum, and we are in control. Oh, no. Or we're in control. Let's stay in control. So let's get rid of those. So we enter the fray, and let me bring up the map of the spaceships, and I'll bring you back. All right, so the Federation Corvette is coming toward them. Now, I'm going to say they have front-firing neutron torpedoes, right? So the first thing Chris is going to try to do, knowing this, having seen what they do, is she's going to try to maneuver toward the side, right, to see if she can get around. If you can imagine, if you've ever played like Starfleet Battles or Starfleet Command, I played Starfleet Command 1 and 2, and you got shields. The shields have like 6 facings, like a hexagon, right? And the weapons only fire at a certain arcs. And so she's going to try to get out of their torpedo arc so they can only fire beam weapons at her, and it cuts down how much weaponry they can use. So we're going to gain ground and try to maneuver around them to see if she can avoid that and meanwhile keeping them in her firing arc. She yells at Dagger to get up into the turret, and we're going to start shooting at them. She's like, that's enough. If they're going to chase me all the way across sectors, we're going to have a fight, right? Because I've had enough of this. So we're going to gain ground, and we're maneuvering, so we're rolling edge. We don't have any extra bonuses, so we get a weak hit. We stay in control, and we can mark progress, or take +2 momentum, or add +1 to the next move. We're going to mark progress. So I think the progress here is she didn't do any damage to the ship, but she successfully gets out of their forward arc, right, and onto their side arc, so they cannot fire their photon torpedoes. So now she's going to try, and she's going to tell Dagger to go ahead and fire and try to hit their side of the ship and maybe knock out their what would be their port blasters so that they can't fire back. So this is a strike. So this is at range, so we're using edge. And we get a miss. So she fires at them. So they try to maneuver in a position. Dagger fires at them. The blasts go wide, and we're going to pay the price. So let me think about what the proper price would be. Okay, so either they shoot back and the vehicle suffers damage, or we're delayed or put at a disadvantage. So I think these guys might spin around to put her in their forward firing arc, so they can fire torpedoes at her. So let's roll Ask the Oracle. I think it's likely that we're put at a disadvantage, or else they shoot back with blasters and we take harm. We're put at a disadvantage. So what this means is that they can now use their photon torpedoes to attack, or their neutron torpedoes rather, to attack. So they actually end up turning. You can't really rotate these things, so I'm going to move her back. We're now back in their forward firing arc, and we're in range. So they could potentially attack us. And we are not in control, so now they get to make a move. And so what are they going to do? They make a cautious or probing attack. Okay, so they fire a spread of proximity photon torpedoes with the goal of doing concussion damage and potentially like shaking the ship, maybe damaging the internal systems and that sort of thing. So Krista is going to react under fire and try to maneuver out of the way of this spread of neutron torpedoes. I keep calling them photon because of Star Trek, but they're neutron torpedoes in this universe. So she's going to react under fire, and she is... Oh, you know what? Maybe what she could possibly do is, you can do this in Starfleet Command, shoot them down as they come in. So she's going to tell Dagger, I'm going to swing us around, fire at the photon torpedoes and knock them down, right? So what's she doing here? She's blocking, right? Not taking the hit, moving, hiding, creating a distraction. Cleverly bypassing the obstacle. I don't know. I feel like all of these could be applicable. It's not really blocking, right? Because this isn't like a close range attack. I feel this is still edge, right? Because they've got to kind of use their dexterity to do this. So we'll roll edge. No bonuses. And we get a strong hit. We succeed and take control and +1 momentum. So they shoot down all of the incoming photon torpedoes, and the captain of the Corvette, curses and gets upset. And Krista says, let's see if we can get back around to the side so they can't shoot photon torpedoes at us again. And she tries to, once again, as I'm really picturing this like a Starfleet Command battle where you're like rotating to the left and the guy's flying to the left trying to stay ahead of you so that you can't get him into the arc of fire you want, right? And Krista says, let's try to get around him. And she guns the engines. And so we're going to gain ground and see if she can get ahead of him and get out of their firing arc. So this is maneuvering. And we get a strong hit. We can choose to mark progress and take +2 momentum. So we mark progress and we gain momentum. And so they move around outside of the photon torpedo firing arc. And she's going to say fire, and Dagger takes a shot. and tries to blast them. And again, this is rolling edge because we're at a distance. And we get a weak hit. We mark progress twice. So what happens is Krista slows down to give Dagger time to fire, and Dagger fires and hits their blasters, but the ship turns, and again they get into its forward arc. And I'm moving them because I can't rotate the ship, and they're going to fire photon torpedoes or something like that again. So they're now in a bad spot. So let's see what they're going to do. They decide to leverage the advantage of weapon or ability. I think, yeah, they overload their neutron torpedoes and fire a spread of overloaded neutron torpedoes. These can't be blocked, right? The proximity ones can be shot down, but there's so much energy in the neutron torpedoes that I guess they can't be shot down, let's say. Or they're coming so fast that they can't be shot down. And because they're not proximity now, they're doing this overload, and they're so much more powerful that it's just not easy to shoot them down. So Chris is going to have to try and get her ship out of the way. So we're reacting under fire, and we are dodging, right? So rolling edge. We get a strong hit. We succeed in getting control and take +1 momentum. Well, I think that's good enough. We're in control. Krista says, let's finish them off, and she just flies straight at them, and Dagger takes a shot. And we'll try to finish the battle, right? We are going to take decisive action. And we get a weak hit. We achieve our objective, but not without cost. So they fly toward, and this corvette explodes. But what's the cost? It's worse than you thought. Make a suffer move. Okay, so I think they hit it, they disable it, but the thing is coming right at them and tries to ram them. And they get caught in its explosion. And we're making a suffer move at -2. So this is going to be the shields. Fortunately, we have the shields, right? I think we're taking damage. And 2 shields. Krista, best thing she ever did was buy the shields module. So the ship gets pummeled with the debris of the corvette, but the shields take the brunt of the damage. And then once that's over, Krista lowers the shields because the battle is over, and they've destroyed the corvette. And now it can't chase them anymore. And guys, I think that's long enough for this session, so we won't be making any more moves in the Bloodied Breach. We still haven't continued this this trip today, but we beat up a corvette and we explored a vault, so we got a lot done and we gained some XP. Until next time, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been Starforged Alpha Cluster.